right, we are back and we are live on a Wednesday, talking rock with you as we do each and every day, live on Trunk Nation, Faction Talk, SiriusXm Channel 103, live in the 3 to 5 Eastern window or anytime on the SiriusXm app. Thank you as always for tuning in to our ever-growing army of Trunk Nation rock fans listening and celebrating rock music and dissecting it each and every day. We're on a tremendous tear with guests and stuff. We had some amazing guests the last few weeks, and then we got tied up in all kinds of stuff, all that Ace Frehley craziness and all of that. So I wanted to make sure we cleared some time to give this guy the proper window that he deserves, and we're going to speak to him right now. He's an old friend of mine from New Jersey who currently lives in Belarus. And, of course, you know him best as the lead singer at one point in Rainbow and Deep Purple and Yngwie Malmsteen. We are joined now live by Lynn Turner. JLT, how are you, buddy?
Hey, Eddie, how's it going, man? Everything's good.
Good. You don't have any Cracker Barrels there in Belarus, do you?
No, but in the U.S., there's plenty of them down in South. Absolutely. I still got that house on Summit Avenue.
I bring that up because I remember you used to tell me that Cracker Barrel was your favorite restaurant, and you used to go there all the time, by the one by me or something.
Yeah, at one point it was right off of Route 80 there. It was pretty good because it had some country fried steak and all that, chicken fried steak and blah, blah, blah. But that's those days are gone, man. I don't eat that stuff anymore.
Well, let's start there, actually, Joe, because last time I spoke to you, you had just gotten through a heart attack, and I checked on you on your health. How is your health holding up?
Unbelievable. Thank God, really, Eddie, because I think I'm in better shape now than I ever was. It's all I can say is the doctors were amazing, and I had 2 stents put in, and I have been feeling more energetic and youthful and vigorous than ever. So, all I can say is I got a second lease on life, and I'm really, really grateful about that. Everything's going great.
Well, judging by the record, which you're going to talk about in a second, there certainly is a lot of energy back in you, which is great to hear. Joe, how long have you lived in Belarus?
Off and on, because, still got the house in Summit Avenue, Hackensack, and all that. And my wife's folks are here, but it's just off and on, really.
So you're back and forth between there and New Jersey.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. My daughter's in New Jersey, and my two grandchildren are too. So, yeah, absolutely. Very nice. Very good. Very clean. Very nice people. No problems. Everything's good here. There's a lot of misconceptions about things in the world these days, and I'm not here to talk about that. But all I can say is everything's just fine here. But yeah,
so where you are
all the time.
So where you are, you're good, and you're happy, and you're safe, and it's all good.
Sure. Yeah, no problems. Absolutely.
Good. So, Joe, let's talk about this record because it came out last year, Belly of the Beast. And look, I've known you for decades, and I've known the music you've made for decades, and this really jumped out at me when I heard it because it's still Lynn Turner. It's still your unmistakable voice, but it's way harder music than I remember hearing you make. I imagine that was intentional?
Absolutely. I refrained from doing solo albums for a few years simply because I wanted to do something very special. I wanted to do something different and artistic and meaningful with purpose. And when I met Peter Takt, we started working on it. Of course, I did like side projects during that time. I did 2 for Michael Schenker and something for Arion and something for Cleopatra and blah, 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 but not solo records. This is the solo record that I've been wanting to make for quite some time. I think I wanted to do something different. I didn't just want to do same old. Eddie, if an artist doesn't change, doesn't evolve, I think they just sort of wither away and die, really. And if you look at a guy like David Bowie, absolutely, I'm not comparing myself to Bowie, but if you look at somebody like him, every album was different. Every look was different. Everything. He was just an evolving character. And I think that's a true artist, you know. And the artist always reflects. He's like a mirror to society, and that's what I tried to do on this album. I was just looking at the world and saying, "This is the way it is."
You mentioned a guy by the name of Peter Takt, who I believe wrote these songs with you and had a big role in producing the record. I think even playing on the record. What is his background, and how did you connect with him?
Peter's amazing. Peter is primarily from the band Pain and Hypocrisy. I'm sure all the metal guys know him. His brother Tommy was a big fan of mine, and Peter had called me up, I'd say about 4 or 5 years ago, and said, "Tim, you play my brother's birthday party?" So I said, "Sure." You know, it was a big surprise party that he held in a big hall. So there was a couple of hundred people, and we had a great time. We started talking and drinking and found out we had a lot in common. And the next thing I knew, he said, "You know, it might be great to work together." And I said, "Boy, that sure would be different. It would be absolutely something out of the ordinary." And we got into further talks, and we said, "Well, look, if we do this, we're going to respect each other's genres and try to come up with something right in the middle of something like melodic metal." And basically, that's what we have here with Belly of the Beast, because for me, we stayed right on track, and we completed the mission that we set out to do. Anytime I would go left, a little bit too melodic hard rock, he'd bring me back, and every time he'd go a little too metal, I'd bring him back, and we stayed on course. And we got Belly of the Beast, and I think this is exactly the record we wanted to make. Melody,
Joe,
and message, Eddie.
Well, yeah, and the other thing that I'd say, I love heavy music. It's been my whole life, but where metal is gone now, and all respect to people who like the more aggressive, extreme stuff, but the thing that I don't like about a lot of the newer, more aggressive metal is the lack of melody and vocal. I have to hear singing in music that I like. I can't do the screamo stuff. It's just not for me. It was never to my taste. So this is really the perfect marriage, because you still got that amazing melodic Lynn Turner voice, but against the backdrop of way heavier, more aggressive music than people know you for, and it blends perfectly. I mean, it really does work.
It does work. We thought about that, and we said, well, how will it work? And I said, look, I'm a singer of many styles, as you well know. And I just said, look, I'll just put a little bit more gruff into it. I'll put little more, darkness into it, lyrically and performance-wise. And Peter also was very respectful of my past and my career. So he knew that he needed to make metal, but also there had to be melodic parts in it. And I'll tell you, it was just a fantastic chemistry and union that we had. And that's how we came up with it. And I have to agree with you. For me, it's like I need a song. I need something that I can, as the Germans call it, an earworm, something that sticks in your head. And if it doesn't, it's kind of lost on you. You hear it once, twice, and it's gone. But with this type of record, you can hear any one song on these 11 songs on this album, and there's melody and message in all of the songs. So it actually reads and feels like a journey, an LP especially. Those are the old days when the LPs used to actually sound cohesive, if you know what I mean. Because there's a lot of guys who come out now and they'll have one track here, one track there. It sounds like they recorded them at all different stations of their life. This one sounds like the same piece. It's like a painting all in one.
Yeah, I mean, and I appreciate that too, because I really bristle at when people say, well, I think we're only going to do singles now and nobody wants full records. And look, that may be the case, and I know the business is always changing and evolving, but for me, I love listening to a record track 1 to track 10, the sequencing, the way the songs go. I love that whole journey, that whole experience. That's the best to me. So I'm glad that you did that. The other thing that jumped out at me about the record, Joe, is not only its heaviness, and again, just for clarity for people who haven't heard the album, it's not a thrash album or anything like that. It's just more heavier record music than you've been associated with. And there was definitely, and I don't know if this was coming from your collaborator, but there's definitely a very European feel to it. Like even in some of the big choruses and stuff, it kind of almost reminded me of like something Except would do or something like that.
Right. Well, Peter's from Sweden, and there is a Swedish metal, quote unquote, type of sound, the industrial stuff, and you can't take that away from him. And he also produced Linderman. Both albums he did with Linderman. So if you listen to Linderman, which I think are fantastic albums. I think Till did a great job, and Peter, exceptional musically. And, of course, the tours were amazing. I saw a couple of shows. And for me, Peter has a sense of melody as well, even with Pain, for example. I mean, Shut Your Mouth was a huge hit years ago, and he's done exceptional things since. The Hypocrisy would be a lot more heavier, where he uses the guttural voice and all that. But he's got many sides to himself. So you're going to hear that European influence because Peter is, Swedish. It's even more pinpointed as far as the European. It's more Swedish because if you listen to some of the Swedish melodic metal type of acts that are coming out of there, like Dynasty or whatever, you'll hear that. You'll hear that same kind of sentiment.
Of course, the music is one thing, and it's fantastic. It really is a killer record, and I'd suggest everybody check it out. Belly of the Beast from Lynn Turner. Again, it came out late last year, so if it kind of got lost in your shuffle a little bit, go back and revisit it. But the other thing about it, Joe, that not only did the little shift to heavier music get a lot of attention, but the other big thing that got attention when this record came out was you and your look. Talk a little bit about the decision to show yourself with a shaved head. Right.
Well, it was time. It was just everything came to an apex, Eddie. It was like sort of an open secret, about the wig, the hairpiece, whatever, and it served its purpose and still does actually because it's all theater. If you look at half of these bands, they're wearing hair. I'm not going to mention names, but it's pretty obvious, so let's not even go there. So I could never understand why anybody made a big deal out of it anyway, because it's not what's on your head, it's what's in your head that counts. And it was time for me, and I had great support from my loving family, my wife especially, and my friends and a lot of fans that just said, your music is changing, you're changing. I felt that this was a transformation for me, and I said, what the hell? And the amazing amount of support and positivity and compassion that I got from this reveal, shall we say, is just overwhelming. The love was overwhelming, really. It just fortified that decision, and it's very comfortable, and it feels freer than ever. There's a certain amount of freedom in it and truth. And I think as Graham Bonnet, I don't know if you caught it, but Graham Bonnet wrote a very nice piece where he said that I actually cut a path by doing this for artists because, as you know, he had Blackmore always had stipulations about his short haircut, his James Dean look. He's always been getting held for that all his career. And he was really impressed with that. He just said it took a lot of balls, a lot of bravery, and that I've cut a path. And I think he was very kind and very gracious by saying that. But it was time,
Joe. Joe,
it.
you had said if I read this right when this all came out that you and you're right. I mean, half the artists out there are wearing some sort of hair piece, extension, weave, whatever's going on. But you had said at the time that this was you wearing a wig all those years, decades, was not because of like natural hair loss with age or genetics. You actually had something wrong, right?
Absolutely. Real quick story about that. I was born perfectly, normal like anybody else. And at 3 years old, my mom was washing my hair in the tub, and it all started to fall out. And it's what's called alopecia universalis. It becomes alopecia areata, which means area areas of your hair fall out. A lot of people have the patches of missing hair. Then totalis is when they lose all their hair, and universalis is when you lose all the hair on your whole body, right? I'm at that stage now. I'm 71. You know, there are drugs now, by the way, that actually have worked for people that have put the hair back, because this is an autoimmune disease, and what they do is they block that particular white blood cells or whatever that think that your body's being attacked. So years ago, my mom, we went to many, many doctors, tried to figure out different formulas and what have you, until finally I went to a doctor when I was 19. Well, actually, I was 17, but he wouldn't treat me till I was 19 with different corticoids and steroids. And I actually grew a beard and a mustache and body hair and all of this stuff. And there's plenty of pictures with me like this, you know, and there was like fuzz on my head. But I wanted to get into rock and roll. And in order to get in rock and roll, there was some sort of a uniform, which apparently there still is a uniform, if you know what I mean. People tend to wear the same type of clothes and wear their hair long, etc. So my alternative was to wear a hairpiece, okay, or a wig. And it was working for me. And I wasn't really trying to hide it from anybody because, as I said, it was an open secret. But it was a medical problem. This had nothing to do with male pattern baldness, or which just about every guy's going to get. You know, I'm already there, so I just keep laughing.
Oh, I'm there. I'm there, buddy.
Oh, right? Receding a little bit, my friend? Yes, of course. So the best thing to do is just take it all off. So this was a medical problem. And it's not something that I chose, which tends to be very cruel when people try to bully you and make fun of you, which I had throughout my school years and even during my career, you know, where I would be singing with these great artists. Like, you know, if I was doing, no matter what I was doing, you know, I'd always have one or two haters always pulling this wig bullshit. And it was just like, you know, it never really bothered me, because I would say that it said more about these people than it did me. You know, they must have a miserable life to try to pick on somebody like that, especially when it wasn't my choice. That's like saying, you know, somebody that's born with one arm, that was his choice, and calling him a freak. You know, it's absurd. So, a long story shorter, or make a long story longer, this is what I ended up saying. Okay, it's time to either wear it or not wear it. If I feel like wearing it one day, I can wear it. It's just like putting on a shirt or a hat, right? If I don't, I don't. Now, Belly of the Beast is a perfect angle for me. I think I look, people have said I look more brutal, or look like iconic, and so on and so forth. I've had many, many really very nice things said about it. So it's working. So, you know, it's kind of funny how the universe just turns sour lemons into lemonade.
Yeah, Joe, I'm being totally straight with you. When I first saw the photo and on the record and saw that you did this, I honestly think you look great. I mean, I think there are people that can pull it off better than others, and you certainly are somebody that can pull it off. I mean, you look great, and it doesn't look odd or weird at all to me. But I got to ask you, no. you said that you might still at times appear with the wig. So what's going to determine which Lynn Turner look that we get, hair or no hair?
That's a good question, you know, because sometimes I've been doing makeup dates, and I'm doing these rainbow purple, you know, Lynn Turner songs, you know, or whatever, and no Belly of the Beast stuff, and they expect the old guy to show up. So that's who shows up. I guess it's Kiss with makeup, Kiss without makeup. I don't know. You know, put it on, take it off, whatever you're doing. It's all theater. You know what I mean? But that was the reasoning behind it all. It's just a matter of freedom. I think it's like you can do what you want now. Once you're free of all this, you can just do what the hell you want. And who can say what? Nobody. It's your choice, and that gives you great power.
Joe, is it a pain in the ass for decades, you know, worrying about that on your head, trying to not have it? Were there ever cases where you've done an outdoor show or something and you're like, Jesus, I'm so worried about this thing flying off, or anything like that? I would imagine being an entertainer and having to deal with that for decades, that's always in the back of your head.
Yeah, honestly, there are times that that thought comes to you, even though you can anchor it properly and so on, and you get to know all the tricks of the trade. But sure, you deal with that, and I'd have to say it's like an artificial limb in a way where you really have to get used to it, and you're afraid of what would you say, disclosure or whatever, or some embarrassing moment or something like that, of course, But the point was to persevere on, and I did. And even though, like I said, it was an open secret, it really never bothered me. The thing that bothered me, I used to love when people would defend me. Like, for example, one time when Glenn and I were doing HTP, and some guy came at me, going like, take that wig off or something. And Glenn jumped in front of me and pushed this guy and knocked him down and just said, leave him the fuck alone. It was just as
Glenn
simple
Hughes.
as that. Yeah, and I just looked at Glenn and I was like, okay, dude, thanks. I appreciate it, but I was just going to do that, So, I mean, but there was a lot of love and compassion there, and I really appreciate when that kind of stuff happens. There are so many people that would defend you because they understand, and that's the thing. And I think today, in the world today, we need a hell of a lot more of that. We need more understanding and compassion for each other. Look at the mess we're in. It's terrible.
I agree. And I mean, I also think we need people to take a little more time to learn about things before they jump to obvious conclusions and just react to things they see on the internet. And I mean, that's the biggest thing that I see is like so much stuff taken out of context. And every day I deal with it on this show, stuff that I say or somebody says. And then a day later, it's like, hey, I heard on YouTube or I read on the internet that this, and I go, no, you got it all wrong. I mean, did you actually listen to it? But it doesn't matter. It's just like run with whatever you see on some sort of clickbait or what have you. And nobody takes the time to actually find out the truth.
Absolutely hit the nail right on the head. It's very much like propaganda, okay? What people don't understand, which I thoroughly understand, and so do you, is that what you hear, on the news and this and that, and coming from people of authority, so to speak, is not necessarily the truth. Or people who say they're experts, that's not necessarily the truth. And if you don't research and use your own critical thinking, you'll never really understand it. You will act upon emotion only. And if you act only upon emotion, you'll be wrong. Because you have to have heart and mind and gut. I research everything. I'm a research nut. I try to find the truth. And I realize that there's three sides to it. Yours, mine, and the real truth. You know what I mean? And I've had things said about me in the press, and I know you have, and so many people. I was just talking to a friend today who's shall remain nameless, but he's getting some crap said about him. They take it all out of context. They write what they want. It's all clickbait, or it's yellow press. And this is kind of, the situation that we all, in the public eye, we suffer. Because you're constantly getting the eye on you, and they try to make something out of it that it's not. And it's a shame, because I think the world would be a better place. We wouldn't be so divided if we just understood that we're pretty much all the same, and we pretty much all want the same things for our lives and our families and our careers, etc. But these other elements are separating us. And that's when Belly the Beast has got some messages in there about that. About us being separated and us being betrayed and us being lied to. And I think there's a great awakening happening now. And I think people are starting to wake up from years and years of absolute somnambulism. And I couldn't be happier for that. And I wanted to make this album in messages to say some things about that. To say, Rise Up, for example, one song, about taking back our freedom, because totalitarian, the authoritarianism is happening. It's starting all over again. This happened in ancient Roman times, and it's happening again. Everybody's starting to lose their freedom, lose the freedom of speech, number one, which is the worst thing the first thing you lose is freedom of speech. I mean, it's not the same anymore, Ed, and if you lose freedom speech. I don't mind you saying what you want to say, but at least back it up with some research and some truth. Otherwise, don't say it at all.
Yeah, and the thing I have the problem with too is what I call the pounce society. If you say something that somebody else doesn't agree with, instead of just hearing like, well, you know what, I disagree with that, it's attack, pounce, cancel. The hypersensitivity to everything. It's just it's mind-boggling, and it makes what I do honestly pretty difficult, because it's like every day you got to kind of walk a line, because even though I'm pretty unfiltered and don't give a shit after doing this for 40 years, I have no problem giving my opinion, as most people know. You still, like, there's these these worlds of hypersensitivity that they're just out to a gotcha, or to take you down, or to cancel you, or take you out of context, or whatever. It's crazy. And then, Joe, you know how long I've been doing this. I mean, we go back decades. Yeah. I mean, but now we're in a world where, and we're in a world now where literally anybody can walk around and say, because they have a YouTube channel or a podcast, well, I'm media, I'm internet, I'm the media. Well, no, I mean, right. There's no fact, there's no nothing. So yeah, it is absolutely a crazy, crazy time, and I'm glad that some of that it comes through in the messaging on the record as well. One more thing about the visual, then I want to ask you a couple other things, and we'll move on. Sure. I'm looking at the liner notes of the booklet here. What is that? A snake that you have? A white snake you have wrapped around you? What the hell? What kind of snake is that? Tell me the story there.
That's a python. Absolutely, it's a white python. His name is Biggie, and he's a pet, but he's still a python. He's real. I'm not afraid of this. If you show, the owner said, look, if you just act very calmly, and I used to have a boa years ago, and when I was a kid, feeding it rats and stuff like that. So I'm kind of familiar with this stuff. But still, you just act very naturally, very calm, and he just crawled all over me, and the photographer just started snapping pictures. And what I was really trying to do there, Eddie, in this album, and if you look deeply into it, with the photographs and the messaging and all, is to sort of present good against evil, because I think that's what's really happening in the world right now. Art should be a reflection of society. That's what all artists have ever done. It's a mirror. And all we do is we either paint, we write, we sing about what we see. And sadly, I think there's not enough of that in rock and roll anymore. I think it's become too corporate and become too cowardly, and it's just become too cookie cutter. And I'd rather see some of these artists, like, I'm a kid of the 60s. So back then we had revolution, and we had more, shall we say, we were more outlaws. You know what I mean? And I don't find that too many outlaws anymore. After the punk happened and all that, we're just all sort of getting in line and trying to be very polite and not get canceled, bringing you back to what you're saying, and not offend anybody and not say the wrong thing. Well, on my album, I'm saying a few things that many people may not agree with, and I've taken some shit for it. But you know what? I'm like you. After 50 years of doing this, it's too bad, because if it's truth, and if I've researched this, and I will be redeemed very, very soon, because it's all coming out now. Everything I'm saying in this message, especially in Belly of the Beast, it's all coming out. And people are going to say, how did you know? And I'm going to say, how did you not know? Okay? Mm-hmm. So all this cancel culture and all of this offensive stuff, I mean, look what happened to comedy. You can't even be funny anymore.
No doubt. It's definitely concerning to say the least. But yeah, that for people that don't know, if you get the physical version of Joe's album, Belly of the Beast, there is a fantastic photo of Joe with the shaved head, and it's all, and I get what you're talking about with the light versus dark, because the whole photo, the background's black. The whole photo has a dark aspect to it, but then there's this beautiful white snake wrapped around you, and right. That contrast is really, really striking. The other thing about the thing I wanted to ask you too, we talked about you survived a heart attack not too long ago. Mm-hmm. Your voice sounds to be in great form on this record. It's heavy, energetic, aggressive music. Mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier, I think you said you're 71. You're a
Right.
guy whose voice has seemingly never left him. Like you've always had that voice, and you seem to have lost nothing in it. Do you ever have issues with your voice after the heart attack? I imagine it took you a while to get your voice back. Was there concern there?
It was more the physical than just the voice, because I took time off, of course, to rehabilitate and blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. Because my doctor said, "Look, you got to take it easy for a while." Even just the other day, after the Tortured Soul video came out, and she loved it, and she just said, "Don't work too hard." And I says, "I'm not working too hard. Don't worry." But I didn't have trouble with the voice so much as it was just before the heart attack. I was debilitated, and that was because I was having problems with the oxygen content and the blood circulating and so on. So once that's fixed, which it is now, I feel fine. So the problem people have with their voice is that they use it incorrectly. That I had a great teacher, and he taught me how to sing, in a pyramid shape, with mentally and physically. And this is the technique that I use, and I don't strain the actual vocal cords where I'm ripping them to pieces. I can sing gruff, but not have to rip the vocal cords apart. It's all sort of just it's kind of like a foot pedal, when somebody hits it on the guitar and you change the tone. That's all it is. So, no, I've not had a problem with it, and I thank God for that, and I've been blessed with that, and I think I owe it all to my teacher.
Do you have any plans for live shows?
Well, yeah, live is definitely on the agenda, but right now I've got some personal responsibilities that I'd like to take care of, so I'm in no rush to run out there. But definitely in the future, I will come out with the whole thing. I want to do the Belly of the Beast primarily, and we'll get there. We will get there. In the meantime, I'm not sure if I'll do another album or not, but like I said, I'm just taking some time right now for my personal responsibilities and doing what I got to do. And I'm in no rush. I just want the album, people to get acquainted with the album and to really understand it a lot better. And then when I come out, they'll know the songs and we can move along together. So eventually, yeah, Eddie, absolutely.
And just a couple other quick things and I'll let you go. With
Sure.
Rainbow, I know when Blackmore did Rainbow again a few years ago, and you were not the singer, you were not happy about that. A lot of people were hoping that you would have come back and been the singer in that when he did it.
Well, I don't know if I wasn't. Let me correct you by saying again, happy. That sounds like something in the press.
Well, you were vocal about wanting it to happen, and then it didn't. It happened without you, so I would imagine that didn't sit too well.
It's called disappointment, and it's called a bit of betrayal, because I had Carol Stevens, his manager. I had tons and tons of emails. I'd saved them that we were in contact trying to put this thing together, and then all of a sudden, I had some very heavy information from the inside that she related to Richie and just said that Joe wants to control the whole thing and he wants all this money and all this, which is completely untrue. And, they steered, shall we say, a designing woman can steer a man any way they want. And that's what happened. So was I disappointed? Very much so. And obviously in the press, I've voiced my disappointment with what he put together, because I thought, Rainbow was a much better band than that. And I don't think it did the fans or the legacy a service, really. And that's old. It's an old, dry conversation.
But has there been any further contact with him since all that?
No, not at all. No. That's not the way it works. When you're in a band and you break up, it's like a bad marriage. Unless you've got kids together, you probably talk to the ex. But other than that, no. And it's the same for those guys. I know for a fact it's the same for those guys. There was a lot of, if you knew the inside workings to these bands, whether it was Rainbow or Purple, you would understand that it was a working situation. Yes, we were friendly enough. Yes, we got personal and all that. But at the same time, when work was done, that was it. when look, I left Rainbow, and he went and did the Doogie thing, and then, people do what they do. And it's all a matter of just business, really. I knew, what was happening, for example, when Purple got back together. I knew that was happening. I knew I was an intermediary guy. It was no secret to me. Of course, everybody in the press will say you get fired. But you see, again, there we go with the press, and the truth is really something different. So you can't believe everything you read now, can you?
No. But all that being said, and not to fuel rumor when I just talked about rumors, but I am stressing that I've heard this as a rumor from a very reliable source that there were talks that he might do another run with Purple, which is mind-blowing to me. Now, I heard there was some talk about that from legitimate people.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know how. They're doing fine with Simon, and I think the, shall we say, the the friction between him and Gillen's not getting any better. But you know what? God bless. God bless. I think it's more people's imagination, people's desire, what people want. If it does, happy days. I'll be the first one to buy the record. But at the same time, a rumor is just a rumor. It doesn't seem to be going that way. I mean, I think Steve Morris, God bless him, was in the band longer than Richie was.
Yeah.
And now Simon's in the band, and I don't see where he's going to fit in again.
Last thing on your past, the one guy I wish you always would have made more studio records with was Yngwie. And when I think back on my career, which again is 40 years this year, I remember back in 88, I was doing my radio show, DHA in New Jersey, and you and Yngwie called in. You guys were in rehearsals. You were at SIR. Right. I still have the tape somewhere, and it was like Odyssey was just coming out. And again, there was that mix that we kind of talked about on your current record where, in the case of Yngwie, you had the unbelievable guitar playing and all of that, but still you anchoring it with that melody and that voice. Is there a side to you that wishes you would have done more with him, or do you think the one was all you could basically handle? Be the two of you.
Well, to be honest with you, we just had 30 years, of Odyssey, I believe, and that record still kills me because it's such a great record, and it wasn't my choice.
35 years, Joe. 35. It's 88 that came out. Yeah.
I'm getting older by the minute. That's right, 35 years. Okay, that's right. I just did a video for it, and my social media team just put together a video for it, and you could see it on my Instagram and Facebook and whatnot. Anyway, it wasn't my choice specifically, although he was getting pretty hard to deal with towards the end. But there was a moment after I had done a headlining spot for the Prime Minister of Russia, and Yngwie opened for me, okay? This is well after we were broken up. And I just called out to him and said, you want to do a few songs? And he jumped up, started playing guitar. We started playing Odyssey, some of the things from Odyssey. We started playing some Hendrix, and we had a great time. And here's the story. It's like a movie. So I came back to the hotel, and Yngwie and company were sitting in the lobby drinking, and I walked up to him and I said, hey, man, that was really great. I said, we had a good time. And he behaved himself. He stood behind the singer. He wasn't jumping in front, hitting me with the guitar, nothing. He really was behaving himself. So I said, look, Yngwie, that's great. We had a great album and all. And so I said, so if you ever want to do anything, I said, like that again. I said, give me a call, okay, man? It was nice to see you and jam with you. So I walked back to the elevator to go to my room. I get in the elevator, and as the doors are closing, his wife stands up and yells out, he doesn't need you. And as the doors were closing, Eddie, I said, yes, he does. And it was just like a movie. Bam, the doors close. I shoot up to my room. And it's true. I would have done another record with him. Why not? I mean, we had a magic. We had a chemistry. And
how long ago did that happen, what you just told us?
Oh, God, it's been 35 years. It had to happen 20 years ago. You know.
Oh, okay. So it was a while back.
Yes. No, it was not recent. It was a while back, and then since then, you know, he's come out and said he didn't need any of his singers and all this kind of nonsense, and which is so untrue. And you know, my contribution was very noticeable, I'd have to say, because my job was to get Yngwie on the radio. Specifically came down from Polygram. Jim Lewis over there, vice president, said, you do what you did for Rainbow for Yngwie. He's a great guitar player, but he's got no songs. So that was my job. So that's the other thing. You get accused in the press of being too poppy or too commercial. Oh, hey, that's what I got paid to do. You know what I mean? This is exactly what the purpose was. And people don't understand that.
You talked about that when you came into Rainbow, I remember, too, because there were a lot of people who were like, well, it's not like the Dio stuff. And as much as that Dio stuff was great, it didn't get over in America. And you come into Rainbow, and your job from Blackmore was get me on the radio in the U.S., and you did. I mean, 2-3 huge songs. So you're doing what you were asked to do.
That was my job. Richie loves pop music. He said it in many interviews. Street of Dreams being one of his most prideful songs. He says every time he hears that song, he's just so proud of it because it has everything, you know, in it that he really, really wanted. He hit the nail on the head with that one. And this was my job. So I can get accused of all kinds of things, but people don't know the inside workings of what's really going on and why. And that's upsetting. And of course, you can't expect everybody to know this. So what they do is they have conjecture, they use their imagination, they start saying things, spreading rumors, and all of a sudden, you know, you're some pop guy. Well, put on Belly of the Beast and tell me what you think, guys. I'll always be melodic. I'll always be that way. I'll always be messaging. I will always be an artist in that particular way. And I'll put my money where my mouth is. And that's who I am. So the truth is a lie before it's found out. It's an old expression.
Joe, it's always great to catch up with you, man. Congratulations on the record. It really is a killer album. I would tell my audience if you missed this when it came out, it's certainly not too late to get. Belly of the Beast, Lynn Turner, probably like a lot of people haven't heard you in a while. It's really kick-ass heavy music with Joe's voice over the top, and phenomenal album. So best of luck with it going forward. And I hope when you get to Jersey, when you get back this way, hit me up. It'd be great to see you. We'll get a drink or something and continue this. And all the best to you, man. Stay safe, okay?
Absolutely. And love to the family and everybody to Jersey. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, buddy.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Will.
Bye-bye. There he goes, everybody. Lynn Turner for, about 45, 50 minutes there. But JLT and I get talking, and we can talk. We even start talking about the old neighborhood. I spared you that. I had to mention the Cracker Barrel, though, because Joe, I'm not necessarily a big Cracker Barrel guy, but Joe is. And where I live in New Jersey and where Joe lives and is from, probably about 45 minutes apart, but he used to always say, I would go by where you live, man. I'm going to the Cracker Barrel. I'm like, Joe, of all the restaurants, why do you drive to go to the Cracker Barrel? He's like, that's my favorite place, man. He goes, I love that place. So I'd only personally go to Cracker Barrel if it was across the street and there was no other place to go, but Joe was a fan. So I don't think he's getting that in Belarus where he's currently living. And I do think he looks great with the shaved head thing. I really do. I mean, it works for him. He can make that work, and he has. So good for him to free himself. Can you imagine? You know, you go through your life as a professional musician for like 50 years, Joe's been singing. And for 50 years, you got to worry about, making sure this thing fits on your head right. Or outdoor gig, it's not going to blow off. Oh my gosh, I'm worried of this or that. All the people talking, people are sniping about it behind your back. So for him to free himself of that after 50 years has got to be an amazing relief. So good by him.